All right, joining us live this morning, KHOU 11 political analyst Brandon Rottinghaus. Brandon, what are some of the other big takeaways from the day?
I think we definitely saw this as a kind of preliminary day. Like if you're watching a boxing match, you're seeing the pugilists trying to kind of figure out how each of them stand. But we did see a couple of haymakers from the defense where, like you said, they really leaned into the politics of it. They accused Dade Phelan of the kind of political vendetta. They said that the Democrats essentially were behind this. So they're echoing a lot of these kind of terms and a lot of this language that we're seeing Ken Paxton supporters play out. So we're definitely seeing the politics in this very thick.
All right, if you were watching the trial, you saw prosecutor Rusty Hardin point out Paxton didn't return to the courtroom after the lunch break. What message does that send?
It's pretty interesting. Obviously, he's not required to be there. The rules they set out only had him there for the plea of guilty or not guilty, which he did. But it's definitely a strategic choice here. I think what they're trying to say is that effectively that this is a proceeding that the attorney general doesn't want to put his fingerprints on, that this is sort of a sideshow. And so as a result, he's kind of moving beyond that. But obviously, it has implications because, like you say, there is certainly a perception issue here where people perceive him to be kind of checked out of this, and that might be something that influences the jury.
We're less than 3 hours away from day 2 of the trial, so what can we expect today, and what do you think about the pacing? Will that pick up at all?
The pacing is, I think, pretty similar to what we'll find. Obviously, it seems slow at times. We're used to kind of quick courtroom dramas where we can expedite these things in a few hours. But the realistic kind of outcome here is that it's going to take some time for them to get the witnesses prepped, and it's going to take time to work through objections. So it will, I think, continue to clip along at about this pace. And on that point, we will see, I think, today some pretty interesting findings. The lieutenant governor, who is the presiding officer, is going to have to rule on some motions about whether or not they can include certain kinds of conversations between underlings in the attorney general's office and the attorney general. That is, they want to say it's attorney-client privilege, and so it can't be used. That's going to be something that will have ramifications for the evidence produced. And really today, mostly what we'll see is witnesses who are inside the attorney general's office. They're whistleblowers. They are accusing the attorney general of some particular wrongdoing, but also the managers want to say that these are people who are rock-ribbed conservatives. And so they're not just this kind of wild-eyed liberals out there trying to bring down the AG. These are very conservative folks who are in a position to be able to say that they think the AG did something wrong.
All right, we still have at least a couple weeks ahead of us. KHOU 11 political analyst Brandon Rottinghaus, thank you so much for your insight. Our live team coverage continues throughout the day. You can get the latest updates right to your phone. Text the word Paxton 713-526-1111. We'll send you links to those stories on KHOU.com.